Alright guys, welcome to Industry 101. My name is Indybro and I'm going to be teaching you industry, how to make ISK, doing so and why you should totally do it. So if you didn't guess by my name, I'm a industry dude. I love industry. It's like the main thing that I do in this game. You won't see me undocking and fighting or ratting or mining. That stuff's kind of boring. So what is industry? So in basic terms, industry is just you're taking raw inputs. So it might be minerals, it might be salvage. At more advanced levels, it might be PI, and you're basically gonna put it all together to make finished things like ships or modules or rigs, stuff that, sorry, PP, not PI, because it's now planetary production, I think. Yeah. So yeah, you're going to be putting all this stuff together to make ships, modules, rigs, stuff that everyone uses pretty much every day. Now, why industry? It's so first you can make ISK from it, and at a larger scale it can double up as a really good passive ISK, well, semi-passive ISK making, as in you can set things to build, you can put on market orders, and then you can go about your daily business. You can go mess around in standing fleet, and you'll be getting sales along the way. You'll be making ISK as a result. And it also helps the alliance, not only the alliance, but also our coalition. So whether it's Test, whether it's Requiem, whether it's Tickle or Dangerous Voltage, people are always shopping in GE and 68. Those are the two main shopping hubs, and surprise, surprise, Brave owns both of them. So why not take that opportunity to make some ISK at the same time? So the things that you might see on the market might be like ships and fittings. So not only do you need to build ships for stratops, so not only will you be seeing scythes and ospreys and feroxes and mowers and caracals, you'll also see things that get flown a lot in standing fleet. So there can be T1 frigates, or you might see some destroyers, you might see some cormorants, some coursers, you might even see a futility flying his prophecy. Or even some people will be flying battleships. You might see some Armageddons or some Ravens. And obviously someone needs to make those ships, and if you're making those ships, you can make money off them as a result. So the biggest misconception that I see or hear quite a lot is, do I need a character dedicated to industry? The short answer is no. Literally any character, a day one character, can do industry. If you want to do industry, even just try out the basics, there are two skills that are really useful. One is called industry, and this will basically reduce the time taken to produce goods. So that means you can make a lot more goods at a faster rate. And the second skill is called mass production. So what mass production does is basically gives you more build queues, so you can build multiple things at the same time. Yep, so here in chat, someone has linked industry, mass production, and advanced mass production. So you can get away with mass production 3 or 4 if you just want to dabble in industry, see if you like it or not, before moving on to advanced mass production, which will just give you more slots. There's also a more advanced skill called advanced industry, which Arkstar has kindly put in chat. And this just further decreases the time needed to build things. So when you're building ships, all this adds up. So industry will give you a 20% build timer, so take off 20%. And advanced industry will take off another 15% multiplicatively. So those are the skills that you need, and like industry comes pre-trained. Mass production, you might need to inject the skill book, which Dojo would have, and and the skill doesn't take long to train at all. You can get probably 2 or 3 levels of mass production done in a day, and that will give you a good amount of slots to start and start to get a feel for industry. Another thing that people might get disheartened or which might push them away from industry is the amount of ISK that they need. So on the very basic levels, you can do industry with like 10 million ISK, 20 million ISK. But the great thing about industry is the more ISK you put into it, the more ISK you can get out, and the more passive industry becomes. So imagine you're a new bro and you have like 5 million ISK to your name. You build a few modules, but that's about all you can afford to build. So you put those on market. Yeah, and those might sell. They might sell a bit slowly, but they sell. You might not make a big profit, but you're getting by. Then if you compare that to some of the bigger industrialists who will have over 10 billion ISK, 20 billion ISK sitting on the market at one point, they cannot log in for a few days, and when they come back, they will more likely than not see a bunch of like sales in their transaction wallet. And then they can just set up long build queues. They might set up a build queue that goes on for a week. So that means they don't even need to log on for a week. Then after that week, they can log on, they can put the stuff on the market, and boom, they can make some more money. They can make money while they're at work, while they're doing something else, while they're mining, while they're writing, while they're playing a different game, or like doing something else IRL, because obviously not everyone has the time to play EVE all day, and industry is a way to help you get that balance if you need to juggle real life at the same time, because as I've explained, it is relatively passive, as in you don't need to be at your computer constantly to make a profit from it. Yeah, so to start, you just need a bit of ISK. Any questions at this point? Not now? No? Alright, I'll take that as a no. Alright, so the next question that people have is what should I build? Because obviously that's a hard question. So there's tons of things that you can build. So the main thing people look at would be ships. So like, hey, people fly ships all the time. Let's build some ships. But ships aren't always the best things to build. Other things that you might build rigs. So those will use salvage. Salvage you can get from exploration, or you can buy it, or you can salvage some wrecks. And rigs sell really well because every ship needs rigs. If you're flying a ship without rigs, most likely you're doing something wrong. And because rigs can't be taken off the ship without destroying them in the process, when people change around their rigs, they will have to buy new rigs regardless. Whereas with modules, you can buy modules, you can take them off your ship, you can put them on another ship, you can kind of jiggle them around, so you end up not buying as many modules as you would rigs. So give me a second while I get this link. Alright, I've just put a link into Fleet Chat. For any of you who can't click it, it's a battle report of the fight that we just had down in Impasse versus Initiative. So TLDR, a rule pool got tackled and we went to save it. As far as I know, it did get saved, but there was a big fight. There were all kind of ships that got lost. Some capitals got lost, some sub-capitals got lost. Over here I can see like Thoraxes, Ruptures, Cormorants, Condors, Atrons, Federation Navy Comets. So all these ships are T1 ships. and these are all ships that anyone can make. So as you can see, there was about 15 billion lost on our side. Now, a lot of that would have come from the capitals that we lost, but a lot of it would also have come from the sub-capitals that we lost. And obviously, if someone had to buy those ships, and the person they bought it from could be you, because someone has definitely made money in the last hour or so, because so many ships would have been bought and so many like ammos and modules would have been bought that someone is sitting there making money. And now a way to identify what to build would be using the buyback doctrine page, which I'll link in just a second.
Hey, Andy.
Uh-huh.
I'm never AFK.
You're always AFK, Jinx. Your leadership. Alright, so in Fleet Chat, I've just linked the buyback doctrine stock page. So if you want to open it up. If it asks you to log in with one of your Brave characters, so you can get access to it. I'll just give you guys like 10 seconds to do that. Alright, so if you've logged onto the page, you will see the page that says Doctrine Stock at the top. It has some text. Then it has like a table with different items. So I can see signal amplifiers, targeting range scripts, missile range scripts. The useful filters are in the top right hand side. So it will probably say 68 FT Keepstar. So you can change that to the GE faction Fortizar if you click on it. The UALX Keepstar I don't think should be there anymore, but I can let Rehan know. So if you click on the GE faction Fortizar, it will change the tables. And what you can see here are the different doctrines. So the first doctrine we've got here is the Candy Canes. So that is the Hurricanes, I believe. And then down here you can see the different items which go into that doctrine. So say we've got the medium anti-thermal screen reinforcers. These are the shield rigs that will go onto the Hurricanes. So whenever Hurricanes get cooled, you can bet that there will be sales of those rigs going up. So if you read along the line, you can see it says stocked is 266, the target stock is 25, and the percentage stocked as a result is 1000%. But it also says that it's overpriced. So what that means is the formula that Rehan has used. So if you scroll to the top of the page, underneath Doctrine Stock, where there's a small amount of text, if you click on the question mark, it will open up some more text with a formula. That's for the mathsy folk. So that will probably make sense to the mathsy folk, but it's basically a way of determining if a item is overpriced or not, and it bases it off the Jita price, and the more expensive the item is, the less markup it can have in percentage wise. So let's see some things that you can probably build. So we have light armor maintenance spot. Those are T1. You can build those. You can build some of. So a lot of these items you'll see they are meta items. So meta items, they're not T1, they're not T2, and they're dropped from rats. So these are things like the limited adaptive invulnerability field, the small YF 12-way smart bomb, the large murky compact remote shield boosters. So all of these will have to be imported, but the rest of the other stuff can probably be built. So it's mostly the rigs that you will see built. So every item has a Tech 1 version. So you might see 720mm artillery Tech 1. Now those might not get used in the doctrines, but people still might use them in standing fleet. because sometimes you might not find the item that you're looking for, the meta item that you're looking for, so you'll make the compromise and you'll buy the T1 item. So even though T1 you might not get a lot of the same volumes as you would, people will still buy your things, especially if you look at what sells and what doesn't sell. So if you build something like a Stasis Webfire Tech 1, you might see some sales, but you're not going to see a lot. To kind of get an idea of how many are selling, if you go to your market window and you go search for Status Webfire. Alright, so I can see here that there's quite a few listed in GE. So there's 138 for 69,000 each, and there's 335 for slightly more. And then, so this is the market data tab, which you can see just underneath. The next tab will be the market history tab. Then on this market history tab, you can see all these little lines at the bottom, these blue bars. These blue bars basically show how much have been selling. So if you hover over one of them, I can see there's a tool one, which shows 1st of October as its date. If you hover over it, you'll see two things. You'll see orders, which is 5, and quantity, which is 102. So the orders means how many orders were actually up for that item. So I can see that there's no buy orders for this item, so the orders mostly would have been sell orders, which looks about right because there's currently 4 sell orders up. And then the quantity says 102. That means 102 were traded throughout the day. But because I think that there are no buy orders up, that means everything that would have sold would have been through the sell orders. So whoever listed these Stasis Webfires on that day might have sold 102 of them, and they would have made some profit. So if there's 69,000 each, if they sold 100 of them, that's like about 7 mil isk. Yeah, and sure, that's 7 mil in revenue, so their profit would be probably a bit lower, well, quite a lot lower. Probably less than 1 million over the 100 that he sold, but you can see that profit is being made. So if he's making 1 million profit and his revenue was about 7 million, that's a decent margin. And obviously people will have different costs, so you can see that, all right, he would have made some profit, but this is just a Tech 1 item. And the reason you might see that the quantities are so low for this is because there's other alternatives to it, so such as the X5 Meta Stasis Webfire or the Fleeting Compact Stasis Webfire. The meta items are usually better than the T1 items, especially with fitting and their effectiveness. But you can always build pretty much more or less any module, and what might happen is, which I think happened with these Stasis Webfires, was that someone who was doing T2 production bought 100 of these Stasis Webfires to use for their T2 production, because for T2 you need the T1 version, so they might be making a T2 Stasis Webfire, so they bought out some of the T1s to use in their own production. So every now and again you might get a dude doing T2 production who'll come buy you out, and it'll feel good because you'll see like a big wallet flash and you'll be like, oh my gosh, someone bought my stuff, and you'll be like, all right, I sold everything, now I need to make some more. So that hopefully covers what to build or where to look where to build. Then the next thing would be, how do I get blueprints? So to build anything in industry, you'll need a blueprint. And blueprints are split up into two types. You have blueprint originals, which are abbreviated to BPOs, and blueprint copies, which are abbreviated to BPCs. So BPOs can be used as many times as you want. They don't have a limit to the number of times you can use them, but they do cost money to buy. Some of them might be cheap, will be less than 100k ISK. For example, the Stasis Webfire one is probably really cheap, but something like an Atron BPO might cost you maybe 3 million ISK, or a Destroyer BPO might cost you 10 million ISK. So it's not always the best choice for someone who wants to go into industry to always buy their BPOs to start with, because it can get quite expensive. So that's where blueprint copies come in. So blueprint copies are made from blueprint originals, and there's a process called copying, in which once it's done, you literally get a copy of that blueprint, but it only has a certain number of runs on it, so that means you can only use it a certain number of times. So if I made a copy for Atron but with 10 runs, I will have another blueprint, and I can only use it 10 times, but I will still also have my original Atron. So this way you can kind of share your blueprints, so you can make copies of them and then you can hand them out to people. And this is exactly what the Alliance Blueprint program does, which I will link now. So yeah, if you want to, you can go on that link, log in, and then you'll get to the page, the free BPC program. So this is run by the Alliance. There's people who kindly donate their time and slots to hand out these blueprints, and these blueprints are for everyone, new bros, old bros. If you need a blueprint, you can request them. So there's some rules which you should read. There's a few rules. The disclaimer just says be reasonable, otherwise they'll reject your order. So there's a Google form which you'll have to fill out, and there's also a full list of the blueprints available. So you can use that and see what blueprints are available, see if there's anything that you want to build or what you might like, and then you can go ahead and build them. Everyone still with me? I'll take that as a yes. Alright, so moving on. So obviously now you've got your blueprint. Now you need the minerals to make the stuff. So there's two ways of doing it. One is getting the minerals is through the GE market. So if you search up something like titanium or pyrite or isogen, you'll see people have listed it in the GE market. So you can buy it straight off of the market. Or Gravenheg, he runs one of the salvage and I think ore buybacks now. And he's got a website which I've just linked, Heg Inc. And you can use his website to order minerals, and he will contract them to you either in 68 FT or GE. And this is a more reliable way of getting minerals, because minerals on the market, they can fluctuate, they might get bought out by someone else, but with Heg's website he'll kind of keep a constant supply. So you can always know if you go and order minerals, you will have them soon as possible, really. And he charges a fair price for them, I believe. I think the base price is 105% G to sell, which is a really good price, especially if you don't have to bother with buying them off the market, because you don't want to be buying overpriced minerals, really. So those are the two main ways that you'll be getting minerals. All right, now that you've got your minerals, you've got your blueprint. You want to know where to build your stuff. So thankfully, there's a list which I'll link in just a second. So, thanks, Arkstar. So, another way to get minerals would be to mine them yourself. So I'm not going to go over what mining is, but you can, if you mine some ore yourself, you can basically either reprocess them yourself, which I don't recommend unless you have high reprocessing skills, which I doubt many people here will have. Or you can contract them to Alhema. I've just wrote his name in chat. In some sort of location, so he will do 68 FT and GE, and you basically contract your ore to him, and he will reprocess them for you. Take a small cut, which is pretty negligible, because he does have the maximum skills, plus the reprocessing implants, and then he'll contract you the rest of the minerals back, which you can use however you want. Thanks, Aksa. So back to the infrastructure list. So on this page,
You just cut out.
all right, thank you. So on the infrastructure page, you can let me open it back up. So you'll see lots of tables. You'll see like structures at a glance, catch, impasse, moons. The useful table is at the bottom. It's titled "What do you want to build?" And on this table, they've listed pretty much more or less everything and where you can build them. So for building T1 frigates, you can build them in GE, you can build them in 442, you can build them in 9ZFH. So these places are like the recommended places because these structures have rigs which will give you bonuses when building. So these bonuses might be mineral bonuses, so you will use less minerals, or also time bonuses, so the item builds faster. And they've pretty much covered all bases here. So T1, T2 frigates, destroyers, cruisers, battle cruisers, industrials, battleships. Pretty much everything that you will need will be on this table. So you shouldn't have to be stuck wondering if you're in the best place to build what you're building. So you can just pull up this list, then you'll know, all right, T1 battle cruisers in GE, I can build them in Braveport because Braveport has the rigs for them. Then you can just build them there. You'll get the bonuses, the material efficiency and the time efficiency, and hey, everything's good. Now, say you have your minerals and you have them in the GE Salter factory, and you want to move them to, say, Checkman's Pleasure Palace, but you don't know what to move them in. So one of the best ships, so it's like top 2 ships for moving minerals, is the someone help me out. Is the Galante ship?
Krios.
Cryos?
Yep.
Yep, so there's a Galante ship called Cryos, and it basically has a mineral hold at level 1 Galante Industrial. It has a 45,000 m³ mineral hold, so that will allow you to fit in like 4.5 million individual minerals into that cargo hold, and that will increase with your Galante industrial level. Someone's just linked the ship in fleet chat, so if you want to check it out, there should be some on market already. So this ship is fine for starting out. It's actually really good for starting out because it's really cheap. You don't even need to fit it if you don't want to, because you're just going to be warping around GE, so from one structure to another. So you'll be warping from tether to tether, and you shouldn't really get caught. So this is good for getting your minerals from one place to another. So then say you build your ships, but now you're stuck. You're like, all right, I've made 20 ships. How do I get them to GE? I mean, to the Fortizer. So there's some ships you can use. One is called the Itron Mark V. It falls under Galente Industrials. And it's got one of the biggest cargo holds for T1 ships. The other best T1 ship for hauling would be the Bestower, which is the Amar hauler. I think that gets more capacity if you fully max it out, but it's not much difference compared to the Itron. So you can use that to move back and forward. So I know with the Itron you can get at least 30,000 m cubed of space, and frigates are 2,500 m cubed, so you can fit 12 of them. Yeah, you can fit 12 frigates into your cargo hold. So that might be fine when you're starting out, but say you build like 100 frigates, suddenly you don't want to make those 10 trips. And this is where TXI come in handy. Give me a second. So I've just thrown a link in chat, and these guys will basically haul your stuff for you in different systems. So they might take it from somewhere in GE. So they might take it from the Fortizer to Brave Port, or from like Pleasure Palace to Salter Factory, and so on. So you can use them to move things around in the same system. They do service a few systems, so GE 68FT, they might still do 442, you'll have to ask. But for GE, they're good. So like a freighter trip up to 1 million m cubed, they only charge 4 million ISK, which is really reasonable, especially if you think about the amount of ships that you can fit into 1 million m cubed. Or if you're not building at that capacity, they do up to 60,000 m cubed for only 500k. So you can fit 24 T1 frigates into one of their ships, and it will only cost you 500,000 to move, which again is pretty reasonable. So that's how you get things around. And then obviously once you've got them in Salter Factory, you want to put them in the market. So first you want to make sure the ships are repackaged. So you can do that by right clicking on the ship and pressing repackage. But if you've built the ships, they're already packaged, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. And then what you'll do, once it's in the Salter Factory, you would right click it. You would click view market details first to see what prices there are. One second. And then if you right click it and do a sell this item, it'll pop up another little window where you can put in how many you want to sell and at what price you want to sell them at. So you can price it at whatever you like, but you want to price it at a reasonable price so it has a chance of selling. So currently, let's look at Itron Mark V. I can see there's some on the market for 2,200,000 each, 12 of them. So I might put mine up on the market for 2,100,000. So I will price mine below theirs. So when someone comes to buy a ship, they will pick mine, and then mine will get sold. But then that person might update their order, so their price is lower than my price, even by 1 ISK. So there's a certain degree that you'll need to log on and check your price to make sure it's still the lowest price. But don't fall into the trap of selling at a price that isn't profitable for you. I'll go over this in a bit more detail shortly. So I'm just going to jump back to Blueprint Originals. So Blueprint Originals, they can be researched. Research does two things. So the first thing is you can increase the time efficiency. This means that it will decrease the time needed to build the actual item. This stat can go up to 20%, which means you can save 20% on the original build time of that ship. You can also research the material efficiency, which means it will require less minerals to build. So obviously that's good as well, because if you can build them more cheaply, you can potentially make a large profit as a result. So both of these take time. So you basically put the blueprint in to cook, so to speak. And then during that time, you can't use that blueprint. And you can only do this kind of research on the blueprint originals, not the copies. The copies you're kind of stuck with as they are. So whatever material and time efficiency they have, you have to keep. But the ones given by the blueprint program, most of them are researched to a high level, so you shouldn't have to worry about that too much. All right, so earlier I said about like buying minerals off the market. So obviously you're gonna want a way of tracking what minerals to buy or how many minerals you actually need. And there are two websites that I will link in a second that will help you. So I've just linked two websites. The first one is Eve Industry. Eve Industry, it's really good for just for checking things quickly. So when you click on the link, it'll get you to a page. There'll be a box at the top where you can put in what you want to build. So I'm just gonna put in Itron. Then there'll be a little drop-down menu. I'll select Itron Mark V. Then below it, there has a field for Blueprint TE, which is the time efficiency, and the ME, which is the material efficiency. So these both default to 10 and 20. But you can check what your blueprint is by doing right click and show information to make sure that you're getting the right number of to make sure you're buying the right number of minerals. And slightly above that, you can see two fields, runs per job and jobs. So runs per jobs means how many times you're putting it in at once. So if I put like 5 Itrons to build at once, so that means my blueprint will use up 5 runs. But the job means if I were to put in 5 Itrons 5 times, so I would have 5 different blueprints. I would put in 5, then I'll put in 5, then I'll put in 5, and so on. So generally, if I'm just trying to figure out how many I need, so if say I'm building 25, I will just change jobs to 25. And this is because sometimes you'll get rounding errors, small ones, which might mess up your material requirements. So I mainly use the jobs rather than runs per job, and it usually does me well. Then below you can see a breakdown of the of minerals that you need, how many you'll need, their volume, how much it's going to cost you at G to sell prices. Then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see two boxes. One is called bill of materials and one is called shopping list. So if you press the arrow facing towards the right, you'll see that all the items on the left have now gone onto the right. And then you can click that a few more times if you want, and that will just keep adding it to your shopping list. You can go back up to the top. You can change the ship or what you're building, and then you can come back down. The bill of materials box would have changed to whatever you're building, and then you can add that to your shopping list as well. So that basically just tallies everything up for you quite nicely. So you can just see at a glance what your how much you'll need. The second website I linked is con.space lazy blacksmith. So this one you'll put in what you want to build. So I'm going to do Itron Mark 5 again. And there'll be two buttons. One says research and one says manufacture. I'm going to press the manufacture button. Then it'll show you a screen. So on the left hand side you can see facility. So if you're building in GE, it's going to be a Raitaru. And because the Itron is an industrial, and if we look on the infrastructure list, there is a place for industrials. We'll put the rigs to T1 rigs, and we will set the system security to nosec/wormhole. You don't need to change the system bit. Below, you can change the material efficiency and time efficiency. And then it gives you a breakdown of the minerals that you'll need. So it'll show you the adjusted quantity and then the actual quantity because of the way the rounding works in the game. So if you have part of a mineral, it will just round it up to a full mineral. Then along the top, you can click onto the next tab, Material Summary, where there's a handy button to copy all of those inputs, so all of those materials onto your clipboard, so you can just paste it somewhere else. So like you might want to post it into Eveappraisal, so you can just click the copy button and then press paste into Eveappraisal, and it'll be done. So con.space is a lot easier to get more accurate mineral values, whereas Eve Industry you'll have to do some tinkering with the facility modifier usage, facility material usage modifier to get the most accurate rates. But if you are building in a rigged structure, you can change the facility material usage modifier to 0.95. And that will get you pretty close to what the actual will be for a T1 rigged structure in NoSec. That will just change the amount of minerals you'll need, really. Questions? No? Alright. So obviously when you buy the item, when you buy the minerals, it would have cost you ISK. So say an item cost you 1 million ISK to make in total. You're going to want to make a profit, obviously. So that means you want to sell it at a price that after taxes, yeah, there's taxes in this game as well, that it will result in giving you more than 1 million ISK in that sale. So for example, this Itron Mark 5 in GE is selling for 2.2 million ISK. The lazy way to calculate tax, what I do is I take the price that I'll sell it at and multiply it by 0.95. So that means there's 5% tax in total. So 3% of that tax gets taken when you make the market order. So that will be 3% of the value that you put the item up at. And that money will go straight to Brave. So it will go to the Brave Collective wallet, and they can use it for stuff. The other 2% that will get taken when the item actually sells. So it won't go into your wallet, it will just get taken out when the sale gets made. So what I wanted to say was just make sure you're keeping track of how much things are costing you, because you don't want to be that person selling things for a loss and then wondering why industry isn't working too well for you. And taxes, obviously, 5% is a decent chunk of the revenue, so you'll definitely want to keep that into account. So that's one of the big pitfalls that you'll encounter. The other tax, which is a bit of a sneaky one, is whenever you put a job into build, it costs ISK. There's nothing really you can do to change the ISK. There's some maths behind it, but I won't go into that now unless someone wants me to. I can go over it later. But basically, you pay ISK to install the jobs, to like pay the workers in the factory, basically, and then some of that money goes to Brave, the other goes to CCP. So that's just another cost that you need to keep an eye on, because it can sneak upon you, especially when you start building bigger things like battleships and battle cruisers. It will start costing you more and more to install jobs, because the bigger the item, the bigger the tax, really. I think that covers most of what I've got written down. Does anyone? One thing. So you might put up some stuff to sell. Let me look at. Give me a second. All right, I can see Atrons on the market. So Atrons, there's like 19, then 20, then 70, then 100, and then 74. So you might build Atrons, you might be able to only afford to build 10 Atrons, so you'll build your 10 Atrons, you'll put them on market, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make some profit. And then someone might come and they might put up like 100 Atrons, but below your price, like way below your price. So below a price that might be profitable for you. So you're like, damn, I don't want to put them below his price, because then I won't be making a profit. But at the same time, he's got so many on the market, like he's got 100, those going to take ages to sell, that my stuff's just going to be sitting on the market. And that is a problem that you'll have to, that one, you'll learn to deal with and learn to accept, but also that you'll find strategies to avoid that. So one thing might be, so if you have 10 Atrons, instead of putting 10 Atrons on the market, you might just put 1 or 2. So obviously you'll need to put some more up if they sell. That means being a little bit more active, but that means you won't have items just sitting on the market doing nothing really, because you might decide, all right, maybe I'll just fly the Atrons I made in standing fleet instead of putting them on the market. Then also diversification. So if you put all your money into Atrons, that's not a good thing. If you put your money into, say, Atrons, Executioners, Slashers, and Condors, which are the 4 main Tier 1 tackle frigates, that's more of a smart idea, because if someone undercuts you and puts a price below yours on, say, Atrons, you still have 3 other ships that you can still sell for a profit. So that way you're still able to make a profit without shooting yourself in the foot, really. I think that is it. Unless I've missed anything, or someone has something really specific to ask, or if you guys were expecting something different.
As far as I'm concerned, it's fine. I pretty much got all the information I needed. It was a nice class.
Alright, sweet. I think that's it. So this is like the first part. So I'm intending to do another 2 parts. So those going to be slightly more advanced. I'm also going to go over in those two classes. One of them, I'm going to go over importing, quick TLDR. It's basically buying things in high sec, shipping them down to Brave, selling them on the market. So it's kind of similar to industry. It falls under the same thing, but there's also tons of money to be made that way. I'll also go over some more advanced industry, so some T2, some capital production, some other like cost saving bits, how to basically save money, which is slightly more advanced, and also probably a class on spreadsheets, because spreadsheets are life, and spreadsheets can help you if you want to take a deep dive into industry. If you want to really make sure, if you want to save time and let the computers do all the numbers for you, like using Excel or Google Sheets, can really save you a lot of time and also save you money, because like you might use Google Sheets to tell you if something's profitable to make, and then that way you don't need to manually calculate it. So it can just save you time because you can just open up your browser, you can run your script on whatever Excel or Google Sheets, and then it'll tell you what to make or what not to make. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I just want to ask, do you have a set date when you'll be making those classes?
There's no set date, but probably in next week maybe. I was planning to do one on Saturday, but I'm busy on Saturday. I've got work, so probably maybe next Friday, or yeah, maybe next weekend I'll do another one of those.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll probably record those ones as well, because obviously some people can't make it to the class, so yeah.